Namaskar Srotara. Welcome to my channel. I'm Divya from the Storytellers Pune. And today's story, let me warn you, is not for children. So if you are below 18 years of age, do not listen to this story. I'll come up with new, different, nice stories for you guys soon. But for the rest of us, get ready to come along with me on a journey to a small village in Bengal. Chandi. Chandi's full name was Chandidasi Gangadasi. She was a descendant of the Kalu Dom, and her duty was to bury dead children. You see, she belonged to this family of cremation attendants where the men and women used to cremate the dead bodies at the banks of the river Ganga. But if a child died before the age of 5, the body used to be buried instead of being cremated. Chandi's father used to dig the graves, and then he used to carefully spread the thorns to prevent the marauding jackals from digging up the graves. Every Saturday, though, he used to go around the village carrying a thali, an empty plate, in his hands.
I am your servant. I am Gangadasi. May I have my rations, please?
He would call out. The villagers were frightened of him. They would silently fill his thali and go away. One day, a fair girl with light eyes and reddish hair came instead of him. I am Chandi. I am the daughter of Gangadasi. My father is dead. Give me his rations. Will you do your father's work then? Yes. This was the Chandi that Malinder married. Bhagirath was born within a year. Everyone in the village knew that Malinder adored his wife. He would buy her saris and silver jewelry. They were so much in love. In the Dom community, Malinda was the only one who knew to sign his name. At primary school, when the other students kept skipping classes, he alone stayed long enough with the program to learn. Because of this, he landed a government job. He went to work in a shirt and trousers and shoes. He was so well respected in his community. Since his marriage, he had built a new hut and had 2 bighas of land for sharecropping. Oh, the villagers were so envious. And Malinda knew that the villagers were envious. One day, Chandi came home crying. Her child Bhagirath was in her arms. They stoned me today. They said I'm evil. I do not have the heart to pick up the spade and bury the dead anymore. But it's God's will. What can I do? How could Chandi reject the traditional occupation? Dare she? Would God wreak his wrath on her? Chandi's fear and unease would remain long after the grave was covered with prickly bushes. She was constantly worried that the fire-mouthed jackal might come and start digging in with its large paws to get the body inside. After every burial of a child, Chandi would weep softly, and then she would rush home. She would light a lamp and sit praying beside her own son Bhagirath. She prayed for her child and for every child in the village that they would live long and healthy lives. It was at this time that Chandi spoke to the village elders. Respected ones, please get hold of someone else. For this work, I'm not fit for this anymore. No one listened to her. Not even her husband Malinda. When she cried bitterly, even Malinda scoffed. Around this time, Malinder's sister had come to visit with her daughter Tukni. Tukni was devoted to Chandi. They would spend greater part of the day together, laughing, playing. At that time, the village was suffering from this terrible, terrible attack of smallpox. And unfortunately, Tukni fell ill. Malinda's sister decided to take Tukni to pay homage to the goddess Shitala, to seek health and well-being for Tukni. Chandi accompanied them. Sadly, a few days later, Tukni died. Every single person, even the girl's parents, blamed Chandi. What? Me? Who else? They asked. Never! I swear upon my own child, I would never wish ill for Tukni or any other child. You know my lineage. Suddenly those people, those craven, superstitious people, lowered their eyes.
What about the milk that spilled out of your breasts as you were piling earth on Tukni's grave? Huh?
Oh, fools you are! I don't care that the rage of my forefathers descends upon me. I quit this job from this very day. Silencing every voice, she went back home. She asked Malinda to get a room near his new place of work. Let's go there. Do you know what they call me? Maybe just to calm her down or to pacify her with a joke, he said with a loud laugh.
And what do they call you? Bayan?
Chandi clutched the wooden pillar that supported the roof. Rage and sorrow made her scream out at him. How dare you utter that word? You with your own son? Me? A Bayan?
Shut up!
Chandi's anguished cry travelled far and wide on the raven's wing. Through the hot air, it reached every nook and corner of the village. For a few days, Chandi sat dazed. Then she went inside the house and often sat with Bhagirath in her arms. She burnt a lot of incense and little lamps. After a long while, Chandi became whole again. There ought to be some arrangement for the dead children. This present one is horrible. How am I to know if I did the right thing? Sometimes at night, I can hear my father call, just as if he were chasing the jackal off the graves. Some nights, Chandi woke up with a start, hearing dead cries of children from the graves. Fear gripped Malinder.
Is my wife slowly changing into a witch?
Meanwhile, the community was keeping a close watch on her, and she was completely ignorant of this. One stormy, fateful night, when Malinder was fast asleep in drunken slumber, his courtyard filled with people.
Come,
Come see for yourself if your wife is Bayan or not.
Come. Malinder went out. The burial ground under the banyan tree was lit with lamps. And there she was, a sickle in her hand, a lantern burning beside her, a heap of thorn bushes stacked on one side. I was trying to cover the holes.
Why? Why did you come out?
The jackals, they had suddenly stopped their cries. Something in me had said that they are right at the holes, digging out those bodies. The villagers raised their chants.
Bayan.
It is a job of my forefathers.
Bayan.
No,
Bayan.
no,
Bayan.
I'm not a Bayan.
Bayan.
I have a son of my own.
Bayan.
My breasts are heavy with milk for him.
Bayan.
No,
Bayan.
no, I'm not a Bayan.
Bayan.
Why? Why, Malinder?
Bayan.
Tell them I'm not a Bayan. You know, tell them.
Bayan.
Malinder stared as if entranced.
Bayan.
His mind was seared with all the pain. Something whispered within him.
Do not go near Malinder. Go near a snake, if you will. A fire even, but not her. Though you may have loved her.
Bayan, you are!
My God, Malinda, no! Malinda rushed to get the drum that belonged to his father-in-law. He shouted as he beat the drum.
I, Malinda Ganga Putra, now by declare that my wife is a Bayan.
As a Bayan, Chandi was put in a hut by the railside. She lived as a pariah, an outsider, outside the village. A Bayan is not an ordinary witch, you see. An ordinary witch can be killed, and no one would be harmed. But if you kill a Bayan, it would mean certain death for your child. So the village kept her alive. Every Saturday, someone from the community of the village went to the tree with a week's provision. You know, half a kilogram of rice, handful of pulses, oil, salt, and other foods. A Bayan should not eat much. Calling on a tree to bear witness, the person would leave the basket over there and run as fast as he could. She would go to the pond to collect her water in the flaming noon of April. This red-clad figure with a dog trailing behind her. She had to make a clanking noise with a piece of tin as she moved across the paddy fields so that she could be seen while she was moving and going towards the pond. You see, a Bayan had to warn people that she was approaching. If she glanced her eye on any young man or boy, she would suck the blood out of them. So the clanking of the tin was necessary to warn them. A Bayan lives alone and sees no one. Bhagirath had been told that he did not have a mother. He was now a regular school student at the village primary school. One day, and only one day, Bhagirath had seen his father Malinder talking to the Bayan.
Look away, my son.
Ordered his father. Bhagirath caught the reflection of the red-clad figure in the pond. Her sun-bronzed face framed by wild matted hair. Her eyes that silently wanted to devour him. No, the Bayan didn't look directly at him. She looked at his image, his reflection in the dark waters. Bhagirath shuddered violently. He closed his eyes and clung to his father.
What made you come here?
There is no oil for my hair, Malinder. There is no kerosene at home. I am afraid to be alone. She was crying, and in her reflection in the pond, her eyes seemed to swim with tears.
Did they not send you the week's ration on this Saturday?
The dogs took it all.
Do you need some money?
Who will sell me anything?
Okay, I will buy things and leave them by the tree. Now go away.
I can't. I can't live alone.
Who asked you to be a Bayan then? Go away! Go away!
He picked up a handful of mud and stones from the pond side. Malinder, this boy? With an ugly oath, he threw the stones at her. The Bayan ran away. After Chandi left, Malinder covered his face with his hands and cried bitterly.
How could I do it? It used to be a body as soft as butter. How could I have been such a beast?
You talked to her, Baba? Bhagirath was terrified. To talk to a Bayan meant certain death. And the thought of his father dying, it scared him. He was sure that his stepmother would throw him out of the house then.
She may be a Bayan now, but she used to be your mother once.
A Bayan for a mother? Is a Bayan a human being then? Hadn't he heard that Bayan raised dead children from the earth and then hug and nurse them? Whole trees dry up at the sight of a Bayan. And he's a live boy, born from a Bayan's womb.
She used to be a woman, your mother. It was bad luck. Hers, yours, mine. Once a Bayan, she's no longer human. That is why I tell you, Beta, you don't have a mother.
Bhagirath stared in awe at his father as he walked back along the mud karvat.
She had everything when she was your mother, my wife. I gave her saris to wear, silver jewelry. I rubbed oil in her hair, her body. She used to be so afraid of the dark. Did fate have to make a Bayan out of her, son?
Who makes a Bayan, Baba?
God.
You see, Bayans are crafty. If she was keen on having some child, a Bayan would walk close by, invisible to the mortals, and then she would cast the shadow of her veil on the child as he or she walked. And if the child died, she would feign innocence.
What is there for you to fear, my son? She'd never harm you.
Everyone knew that Malinda had loved his first wife very deeply. Perhaps it was this love that prompted him to tell his son about Chandi. One day when they were walking along the railroad tracks,
Let's sit here for a while under this tree.
Baba, this is the place the robbers go by. Isn't it?
in those days the evening trains that passed through were frequently robbed. The robbers came in all shapes and sizes. At a predetermined place and time, they would pull the emergency chain and the train would come to a stop in the darkness. The accomplices would then run from the fields and they would loot and even kill before disappearing. The banyan tree was their favorite haunt after dark. But Malinda was not thinking about the robbers.
My son, why you should know everything about your mother that everybody else in the village knows.
He told him everything about his mother, of how they first met, and every little incident leading to that fateful day. A few days later, one noon, Bhagirath heard the sound of tin. He rushed to the pond. The reflection of the Bayan trembled in the water. She was not looking at her son. Her eyes lowered. She was filling a pitcher.
Don't you have a sari? Would you like a sari that is not as stone as this one? Do you want my dhoti?
The Bayan was silent.
Some nice clothes?
The son of Malinder Gangaputra, you better go home.
I won't go home. I go to school now.
I am a Bayan. Even my shadow is evil. Does not the son of Gangaputra know that?
I'm not afraid.
It's high noon. Young children should not be out in the heat.
Are you not afraid to live alone?
Afraid? No, I'm not afraid of anything.
Then what makes you cry?
Cry.
Me? I have heard you cry.
Her crimson reflection trembled in the water. Let the son of Malinder Gangaputra leave and never see the Bayan again. Or I'll tell Malinder Gangaputra. Bhagirath saw her turn her back and race along the mud karvat, her hair swaying about her, her crimson cloth fluttering in the air. Bhagirath sat alone for a long time by the pond, till the waters became still again. On her part, the Bayan sat silent in the hut. A long while later, she raised herself and drew out a broken piece of mirror. I am only a shadow of what I used to be. She tried to run the comb through her hair. It was impossibly matted. Why did the child ask about nice clothes? How could he remember? She frowned hard in an attempt to collect her thoughts. It had been such a long time since she had thought about something. Nothing was left in her mind but the rustling of the leaves, the whistling of the winds, and the rattling of the train sounds that had muddled her thoughts. She rose, lit a lantern, and hurried towards the railway tracks to tell Malinda to protect the child, to protect Bhagirath from the witch's eyes. Malinda, on his way back from work, would turn there to take the mud karvat. As she walked towards the curved lane, she saw them. They were doing some work on the tracks. No, They were piling up bamboo on the tracks. The 5 up Lalgola passenger train was due that evening with Wednesday's mailbag. That meant a lot of money. They had been waiting for the loot for a long time.
Who are you?
She raised the lantern and swung it near her face. The men looked up startled. She had never seen the people of her community so frightened before.
It's a Bayan!
Are you piling bamboos? You would rob that train? What? Why are you running away from me? Throw away these sticks first, or you are done for. They could not undo what they had done. It was too late. The rain lashed her as she picked up the lantern. What would she do? You see, if she was really a witch, dark supernatural powers would do her bidding and stop the train. But she wasn't. So what could she do now? Chandi started running along the tracks towards the train, waving at it wildly.
Don't come any further. There are bamboos here.
She continued to scream till the sound of the train drowned her voice, and the train's light swallowed her up. Chandi's name spread far and wide for her heroic self-sacrifice that had prevented a major train disaster. Even people in the government came to hear of it. When her body left the morgue, the officer in charge, accompanied by the block development officer, came to Malindar's house.
The railway is to announce a medal for Chandi Gangadasi Malinder. I know she used to live alone, but there must be someone to receive it on her behalf. Everyone is full of praise. She was your wife, wasn't she?
Everyone was silent. People looked at one another, scratched their necks in embarrassment, and then looked down. Someone whispered, "Yes, sir, she was one of us." This statement astonished Bhagirath. Now they were recognizing her at last.
The government cannot give the award to the whole community.
I'll receive it.
And who are you?
She was my mother. Yes, sir. My name is Bhagirath Gangaputra. My father is Malinda Gangaputra. And my mother, the late Chandidasi Gangadasi Bhagirathi. My mother was never a Bayan. My mother.
The silence in the room was suffocating. The name of this story is Bayan. It was written by Ma Shweta Devi in Bangla. Later it was translated from Bangla to English by Mahua Bhattacharya. And then it was further sequenced and edited by Mary from the Storytellers. This story is incredible and it has so many undertones that if we go to discuss them in detail, it's going to go on and on. So keeping the interest of time in mind, I just want to point out a few points that really stood out to me. First is mob jealousy and the impact that it has on people. Mob jealousy can really influence a person to throw away something that is beautiful in their lives. Second thing I want to point out is Chandi's obsession with her profession. You see, even after she knew that it was not good for her and she put it away and said that I have nothing to do with this, still it constantly kept plaguing her mind. To this extent that in spite of putting it away, she used to have sleepless nights. And this obsession and fear of the wrath of her ancestors actually led to her doom. So one more thing that I wanted to say is Malinder, when he declared that his wife was a Bayan under the influence of all the people and the alcohol, he had the audacity to rush into his house and take the drum that belonged to her father, his father-in-law, and he took her father's drum and beat it hard and declared her to be a Bayan. I mean, how ruthless. People will not support you when you are in your lows. But when you are rising or when you are in your absolute highs, there are so many people who want to associate their names with you. A classic example of this is this story, where When Chandi was alive, they wanted nothing to do with her. But when she was getting a medal and when she was dead, they all said that yes, she's a part of us. Just today I chanced upon this little video by Ted Ed about the witches of Salem, and over there was this quote which said that false tongue does not make a person guilty. But even if it doesn't make a person guilty, in this story you see that this person, this girl, Chandi, had to pay heavily for people's fear and people's false accusations. So what I'm telling you guys to take away from this story is be extremely careful before you pass a judgment. You should be checking every possibility because you do not know what terrible damage your words can cause. Anyway, that's that. Thank you so much for staying and listening to me so far. I will see you soon with a new story. Take care. Bye-bye.